We're hoisting the rafters up and dealing with unexpected expenses.
So say hello to Frederick, everyone. This is Fred.
The weather is throwing us its best curveballs, but we're getting closer and closer to the roof.
All right, so it was supposed to rain today. It may yet, but until it does, it's a liar, and I'm going to be out here doing some work on this. The reason that this is up like this is because our rafters are going to cinch right to that. And this essentially acts as just a buddy for our first in of the rafters on the inside. It's going to sandwich to it. So the first thing I wanted to mention is that when you're working with these angles, obviously every one of these boards has at least one cut that's an angle to it. And boards like that have two angles, one at the bottom and then one where it's at the top. They're the same angle. It's the angle of your roof. So don't get tripped up by your 90, 40, 50, or whatever your roof happens to be when you're trying to create a right angle, because the cuts are parallel to each other, right? So you're keeping them in plane.
What?
So I surely don't feel up to it, but we're gonna try and get the first of the rafters up today in the attic. Family as a whole has been sick 5 out of the last 6 weeks, cold after the COVID, so real good stuff going on here, but let's see what we can do. So we're gonna cut the first rafter and make sure that math is math for us as well as for other people. And these are oversized by quite a little bit, just because that's what the lumberyard was able to deliver. And the extra we will use for blocking, so it's certainly not going to go to waste or anything like that. But they couldn't deliver us 22, and we needed just over 20, so we got 24s. So we're going to do this starting here and here. Use our two worst boards there. We might do the other side after that, or we might start back and forth down the way as we go. All right, so we are at the point where we've cut our 40-degree angle off of both ends, giving us our rafter tail on this end. And over here, we are ready to cut in our bird's mouth. Now, our plans call for this board to taper as the end of the rafter when it goes down past the actual building for its last, 2 feet of overhang.
You can do it, little Nicky.
I know. Oh, right. Nails over here. Don't worry. I'm professional. Don't worry, I'm holding the board. We have our first non-gable wall attached. There's a bow to this ridge beam, and so we have to correct that as we go down the line. So that will require some push and shove. And what we're doing is on the first of a set, one side, the other side, we'll nail through and then also toenail. And on the opposite side, it's going to be toenailed and then angled through on this side, just to try and get it a really good, hold on them. Piglets are out here just trying to stay warm, ready for their morning feed. Are you 3? So we got their heat lamp set up. They're just bedding in here. They can go in there with some extra straw, So far it hasn't been that cold yet. Next week we might get there. We're feeding them a mixture of distillers pellets left over from brewing and clover pellet. Good stuff for them. It's not supposed to stop raining today, so we are just getting some feed for these guys now, and then we'll get the boar. They are having a nice little time in their hut, but they are very hungry, so they're out here to greet me. Hi, girls. Very wet time to be a pig, huh? All right, so same thing for them, clover and distillers mix. Very light on the distillers right now. I will go heavier on that as we get closer, and probably even put some sweet feed in when they get closer to when they're ready for slaughter in January. There you go, girls. Not gonna destroy my camera, but I'll take care of boar next. See, our drainage system is doing its job, getting a pretty heavy drainage down there. So before we get working on the big rafters up top again, we've been out filling in the wings. So that side's close to done. This side is done. We have that side ready to go. That one over there is also done. However, unfortunately, this is also done. This old husky that I got as a gift a couple years back from mother-in-law has decided that its hammer spring is not going to work anymore. It just flops around in there. And so these nails, siding nails I'm putting in, are now by hand, and any nails like for if we wanted to build out the ladder today here would be by hand. So we're probably just going to try and get some more of the rafters put up at this point. So building is not perfectly square, and a little variation makes for a lot of difference. So we're going to take a little cut off of this rafter from our standard cut, if you will. And if you look on this ridge beam from where I'm standing, you can really see that it's got a warp to it, or a bow. And we're going to put right up in here, we're going to put the middle one on this side in first, and that will straighten this up. We'll get it exactly where we want it, get that secured on top and the bottom, and then we should be able to have an easier time of getting the rest of these cut to exactly the right length and put in. So first, Ben, lift heavy board up in a position, and I climb ladder, and then we're just shooting for about 1.5 inches over the top onto our on centers here, and securing in with 3.5-inch nails with a hammer, because nail gun is gone. So we're gonna do that. All right, progress update on this. We are cruising along now. Once we mostly fix this top ridge beam board, the rest of it's going in pretty fast and easy. And that's a good thing, because it means that we split the difference just fine on the ridge beam between side to side. So we're almost halfway, filling those, filling these, and we'll be more than halfway by 1 or 2, because we do have these 2 on the outside over here. We'll just try and get these knocked out.
When I put my order in for our lumber, my salesman had suggested I could save some more money by using a cheaper OSB for the subfloor, since I'd already insisted on the more expensive zip sheathing for our roof and wall, and balked when I'd seen the then astronomical cost of their floor sheathing. I ended up settling on a compromise of Weyerhaeuser edge gold for the subfloor. It was almost half the cost, but it was still designed with surviving exposure to weather in mind, and it had a 200-day no sand guarantee.
With our original timeline slipping from framing completion by September, getting binned by our concrete guy, and with our overly optimistic timeline of mid-July to October 1st for framing having come and gone, our structure has survived significant rain events, smoke, and frost and snow. As we get closer and closer to covered, we've watched closely for signs of damage and done what we can to mitigate the impact of the weather.
So far, the only damage we've seen has actually been on exposed cut edges of zip. in the form of some swell and mold in places where water has been heavily and constantly present, like at the lip of the door from the dining room to the covered porch. We're so glad we chose as we did.
Things could be much, much worse.
About what I mean, it was not square.
So you licked the roof?
The roof.
No, I didn't lick the roof.
The
What's wrong
garage
with you?
roof makes your house look like it's square.
Ah,
You want to get these two first?
What do you mean get them? Oh yes, I would love to. So we're doing all this with just the 16 penny 3.5 inch galv nail, 0.162. So it's a nice thick heavy duty nail. And the reason we're doing that more than anything else is the nailer died. However, it does feel good to have these. We are toenailing just 1 or 2 of these in the bottom of all these for now. They take a hurricane tie, an H1, and we will be putting that on there next time that I'm out here to work on it. We're not doing any hangers or anything like that. The 2 rafters in opposition, once we have the collar ties on, it will prevent it from going out and collapsing down. But really, as long as the outside connection is good, there's no way for the roof to do that anyway. The ridge rafter itself is going to be, permanently ensconced in these walls, and they are only one of multiple members that are holding the weight of the roof. But they're not going to allow it to move side to side because they're built into it very heavily. So progress for the day about 2/3, and it is about to start raining. It's supposed to be an atmospheric river coming, which is just their way of saying that instead of an upstairs attic, I get a swimming pool. Why? The end of our atmospheric river. The sun just came out, not for long, but you can see how much it's pulling off of the building. It's just soaked. It just didn't stop raining at all yesterday. Rain, 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 rain. So we're gonna try and get the water out of the building as much as we can, and we're gonna get started on the top floor, but basically everywhere other than right where I put my tools has a good puddle and has some drip down, so. So we're supposed to have a nice stretch, maybe 10 days, hopefully 2 weeks, where we aren't suffering quite so much from rain. So we're gonna try and get as much of this done as possible, hopefully get the sheathing on so we can start shedding the water off the structure. Starting right now today, we cleaned off the deck, we got every the water off, threw down the tarp off the building because it's supposed to be nice for a while. And Dad's getting stuff cut. Ben and I are attaching H1 hurricane ties, which is something we probably should have done ahead of time, given that the middle nail on that is really hard to get in around these, but we're retroing them in okay. Not really something a palm nailer even would help us with. So just doing the best we can. Casey's bringing up the collar ties. Dad's getting the last couple of boards pre-cut from the rafters. Ben and I finished out all of our H1 hangers on the existing ones and then pre-installed on the ones that aren't already up yet.
House building in bikini. That's what we're going to call Jeremy's next segment.
Well, wait till you see my bikini though.
Well, I mean, you have to give the lady something to look at.
Wherever Dad's got the tape measure, I'm gonna steal it.
You want the tape measure?
There's another one downstairs.
Here you go.
Why is he throwing himself off?
I have a pencil, so I'm doing stuff. Huh? What?
He said he didn't have to swipe my pencil.
Why is Dad throwing himself off the cliff?
Let's see, there's a little blue.
I know.
Got a little green.
There's another tape measure downstairs right over by the board.
Well, yes.
Well, I could go get it, I suppose.
Sure. Or you can wait.
Hiding it, I never really looked at it.
Ow.
Splinter. Master Splinter. Wise man says never pay a full price for late pizza.
We're getting ready to work our collar ties. And we happen to have a little Bosch laser. So we're going to use that to get where exactly our exact height we're shooting for, which is just over 8 feet for the bottom of the collar tie. I'm just marking those off on each board where the laser happens to show it being. In this case, it's right there. And it's getting real faint about halfway through. We are going to be putting up our collar ties. They are 10 feet, and that doesn't quite go to the full outside of the boards. So we're just kind of nipping off the tips on each side, and we're gonna put those up. I had used that laser to give us a mark at about 8'1" the whole way across. In theory, it should be on the level. We will test that. I want to see something while it's still up here.
Okay.
Ah, that's a good laser. Laser's perfect.
Didn't cut the
Okay,
board very
so
straight.
Yeah, no, it's good. Ready?
Sure.
Oh, right, turn it on.
Oh no.
Power,
But where's the air pressure?
power, and unlock. And fire!
Oh, sparkles. So my understanding of this machine is there's a teeny tiny pressure pump inside it.
It sucks in the air, and then it explodes it somehow.
Yep. There's a teeny tiny pressure tank.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this is Frederick number 2. I guess we'll call it Frederica, because obviously it's better than Frederick. Frederick, we returned to the store, and Frederica, as you've seen, is quite nice.
On the lower end, the crawl space and the subfloor are 8 feet high. The first floor and second floor subfloor are 10 feet high. The second floor and attic subfloor are 9 foot high, and the attic is 8 foot high, with about 4 foot more to the ridge beam of the roof. Our house at its highest point is about 39 feet in the air.
There is no way we could have managed a bunch of trusses to do this job without a crane, so I'm very glad we framed up our rafters. When I had first looked at the plans and thought this through, in my head, I'd figured this would be one of the things I would have to ask for help to do. Many of the other things that my dad and brother and others have lent a hand to us on, I'd planned on buying or renting tools or machinery to do, but I'd known from the beginning this one would always be done with help. Coincidentally, trusses would have cost more, and the crane would not have been cheap either, so we saved a few bucks while we were at it. In other circumstances, I would have loved to have rented some wall jacks and lifted the gable walls as one pre-built unit, windows installed, ladders attached, all done ahead of time. We decided to do it in 3 sections because the beams that hang over the joists of the attic floor stick up several inches through the floor, and that would have made assembling the full gables laid flat a real head scratcher. The windows will be done partly by ladder or scaffold, which is not great, but we'd be up that high at some point anyway to soffit the overhang and install the finished siding, so pre-building the ladders and installing them this way works out just fine.
Digging for gold. You ready to put up those truss things?
Yeah, I'm ready.
I was like, no, that's the super attic.
You want it, huh?
We should put it under and look at all of the other nailing space.
Oh, yeah.
So we should
Cut it short, have it fit between.
Yep.
Yeah, what he said. So we have 20-foot fascia boards that we're going to be using and a 36-inch eave space that we need to fill with these aforementioned fascias. This side we should be pretty much good to go ahead and attach. Down on the far end, there are 2 rafters that are a slight bit long that are going to need to be buzzed back. They're the kind of the first ones we started with. And then on the other side over there, we should be able to run that way. But then on the far side over there in that corner, it's the same thing. We're going to need to have that side potentially cut. So we are doing a little game of walk the plank. 3 struck screws into the beam, and I'm out doing my nailing on the fascia. We're not going to bother scalping out the edge. We're just dropping it down to where the sheathing should be able to sit like that. Should still catch on the nails okay, and means we don't have to rip this. It's pre-primed and sealed, so hard to get that top edge just in case there is any water intrusion. And well, I'm lazy, so I'm gonna go ahead and finish nailing this guy in.
While we did ultimately decide to buy a set of scaffolding, it took a long time for me to make the decision on which one and whether to rent it instead of buy. And the one we've bought hasn't arrived yet. I could have done this work from one extra tall ladder that we have, but I honestly feel better about walking the plank and supermaning these fascia on than being up that ladder that far and leaning out backwards 2 feet.
I hit the ceiling and I didn't like it.
It's called a crawl space. You're supposed to crawl on it. Well, you won't. I know you don't like crawling.
Something make him crawl. Right, you got yours matched, Ben?
Yeah, that is lined up.
Superman, can you go down a little bit? There, okay, alright, hold on. You're good.
So now that the hurricane ties are in, and now that we've used our special super safe system of getting our fascia on the front, now it's time for me to get the blocking in. And again, this is going to have ventilation holes through it, so I'm not worried about it being perfect. As far as there not being any gaps on the side. I'm not going to try and really force these boards into a different alignment. We're going to run all of this blocking between today and tomorrow morning, and then I should be able to switch over to doing the inside pony walls tomorrow. Thanks for watching.
See you next time.